So, this is going to be one of those, and now for the rest of the story. For any of you folks that remember the great Paul Harvey, I'm going to do something to fill you in on something. I am not attacking Trump. He is having to deal with an issue that was started during the Obama administration. And I have a feeling, considering what his intelligence agencies and military industrial complex problems were in his first administration, he was never given the full truth. The Houthis are now being designated as terrorists, and they are. But they didn't start out that way. And here's the thing: we, the U.S. nation, are the reason they became terrorists. You need to know this story to understand how the failed policies of the past 25 years have created something that has ended up attacking us. So now I'm going to have the introduction, and then I'm going to give you the rest of the story. Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself. Now, yes, the Houthis now are an Iranian-backed terrorist organization. There's no arguing that. Them being designated as a terrorist organization by the U.S. government. No problems with that for me. But let's go back a little bit before the coal got hit. Way back 30 years ago, Yemen wasn't necessarily a stable country, but it wasn't an unstable country. It was a country that was sharply divided between the government controlled cities and the tribal controlled not cities. Basically, you had city folk and rednecks because the Wahhabi tribes folk, they were basically redneck. They are basically redneck. And they're also, you don't have just the Wahhabis calling themselves tribes. At some point, other groups started going, well, the Wahhabis are treated a certain way and they're called tribes. So other folks started banding together and calling themselves tribal groups. Well, in that chaos, Al Qaeda decided, hey, there's plenty of spaces for us to do some training. And there's malcontents in this country. Well, there's malcontents in every country. I mean, no matter how you look at it, there's malcontents in every country. Well, Al Qaeda teamed up with them. Well, then let's get up to the time of the Cole attack. The USS Cole, if you don't know this, was the U.S. Navy ship that was attacked at port. They had gone into port. Up until that point, any ship that came into the port there in Yemen would have folks come out in boats, local business folks, and sell fresh food, mostly fruit, to sailors. Nobody thought anything of it. Yes, it was against security protocols, but nobody thought anything of it. These were good folks that were trying to do something to help the economy and to help their own selves. Nobody thought anything of it. Well, the AQAP decided to use this as a way to try to damage a U.S. Navy vessel, and they did with the USS Cole. Okay, so you already had that instability. Well, Bush Jr. used this as a, hey, let's start sending drones into the country to try to kill off people that we think are terrorists. And Barack Obama continued this. The problem is they weren't just killing innocent, they weren't killing terrorists, they were killing innocent folk a lot of times. One of the biggest cases was when they attacked a wedding. Seriously, there was a wedding going on, and nobody's even sure if there was actually a terrorist there, but they hit the wedding with a drone attack. That's no joke. And the Yemeni government, which, like I said, primarily just controlled the cities, never gave pushback. Well, between that and the fact that there'd always been a dislike between the redneck folks of the countryside and the cities controlled by the government, and on top of that, there came about that Arab Spring. This was something that the U.S. government made sure that social media helped these folks out in setting up revolutionary movements to try to change governments. Basically, it put more extreme Muslims in control of nations. That's all it did. And it was all at the behest of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's wants. I don't know what they were trying to do, but they failed. Well, let's go a little bit further. This caused a little bit of pushback from these redneck folks who normally, when they went to go up against the government, it was usually just like one or two tribes banding together to do anything. And the government could handle that. Well, this time you had a bunch of the redneck folks get out there and go, we're tired of this government. We're tired of us getting killed. And so they decided to make a serious push. Now, something I rarely talk about, and I don't think I've ever talked about it on any of my formats online. A buddy of mine who had some connections to the State Department said the Houthis actually approached the U.S. government and said, hey, we're doing this to change our country. We're doing this we're wanting this to not be led, we're not wanting to be led by the extremists of the Arab Spring. We don't want to be led by this government anymore. We're wanting to actually make changes inside our government. That's all we're trying to do. Just leave us alone. Well, the American government said, nope, we don't want that. We like the status quo. Well, they couldn't send troops in there at the time because, well, we had two wars going on. So what they did was they went to Saudi Arabia and said, we'll pay for the war. You just use your American trained troops to help back the Yemeni government. Well, the Houthis didn't have many choices. They wanted to change the government, and they were having to deal with American-backed Saudi Arabian troops and the Yemeni government troops, and they only had one option. That was to accept the help of Iran, who, by the way, was having money funneled in on this situation from other nations. I don't know if I'm allowed to name them. And so it became a situation of America funding one side of the battle, Iranians funding the other side of the battle, and as this war has drug on since Obama's administration, the Houthis, well, they had to fight any way that they could fight because they were wanting the changes, but they were also having to deal with the fact that they were taking a lot of resources from Iran, who had their own demands. I have been told that a lot of this was known, but It rarely ever made any intelligence briefings of important people because this might upset the balance in the government because certain people in the government don't want us to do these kinds of things. So we can't let them know. We can just tell them that we're trying to fight Iran. Well, this pushed them even further along in the situation. Next, it got to the point where you fight for so long, you get to be pretty ornery about stuff. Well, then we turn to all of a sudden Biden's administration. I don't think Biden even knew it was happening because, well, we all know how Biden was. Biden released billions of dollars to Iran. He gave them billions of dollars. Well, that gave Iran the ability to fund what was going on in the Israeli areas that are controlled by Hamas, gave them an ability to be terrorists even better. But Iran actually gave stuff to the Houthis and said, well, America's been your enemy for so long, start attacking their Navy ships. And folks, that's what they did. They became terrorists because they've just been pushed so far along after all these years because, America got involved in a situation they should never have been involved in. They kept doing things that they shouldn't have done. And it turned these folks that originally just wanted to change their government to be something different. And no, the folks that were leading the Houthis originally, I don't think the same folks lead them anymore that I knew of and were told about back in the day. These folks aren't in control anymore. It's primarily Iranian trained individuals. And, well, of course they're going to do what Iran tells them to do. And it's turned them into a terrorist organization. So I thought y'all might want to know a little bit more about that. Now, I'm not real happy about the fact that we've been paying for a war against the Yemeni folks all these years. But now, hey, they've turned into terrorists. They've turned into what they would have turned into. They would not have turned into this originally if the U.S. had kept their nose out of the business. But they did. They put their nose into something that they should not put their nose into. I've read some weird articles that pure propaganda from intelligence agencies trying to explain why they were doing what they were doing. We've been paying for a war, and I bet most of y'all didn't even know that we were paying for the war in Yemen for well over a decade. Like I said, this started during Obama administration. The U.S. has killed an untold amount of innocent folks, from what I've been told. And I've seen a few sources here and there where people have done investigations. There have been far more innocent people killed than any AQAP baddies or even anybody involved with the Houthis. Like I said, they attacked a wedding. In the middle of the wedding, all of a sudden, rockets rain down from drones. This is what you've been paying for. And I thought you might want to know about it because we've just said that they're a terrorist organization, and they have become a terrorist organization in a lot of ways. But we're the cause of them becoming that organization. This has been Paul, Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye. Folks, I just want to say thank you for listening. I want to thank you for taking your time. I want to hear what your comments are about what you think on this topic, because your comments are what's important, not necessarily mine. I don't care if you're
you're Republican. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're Democrat. I want to hear your opinion on these topics. I want to thank you yet again for listening to my video. Like, subscribe, and all that other hoopla. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye.